Hello and welcome back to Aetheral Space 14.15 Goodbye Guests, Part 3. These guests are taking a long time to fucking leave, I'll tell you what.
How many? Yeah, I was gonna say, how many parts is this gonna be?
This is until the end of the arc, so it's going to take... We'll get there when we get there.
What do you mean when we get there? I thought this was a short arc.
I'm going to say, I do not want us to go any further than 20, so hopefully we can wrap this up by
So
then.
to 19.15.
No, I don't want to go past 20 is what I mean.
No, I know, but are you going to get into the decimals? Are we going to get like 19.5,
No,
19.75?
I'm not doing that. It's like there's chapters of JJK where like the art wasn't done in time. I'm doing without punctuation for the first draft.
Yeah.
It's just
Oh my
stream of
God.
consciousness.
Epic. Alright, shall we?
Absolutely, we shall.
This thing was toying with them. Musashi gritted his teeth as he continued to swing his twin radiants, deflecting and destroying the countless blades that poured forth to attack. It wasn't just him that was the target. The swords continually tried to weave past his defenses and strike the unconscious Aguta and Delset as well. His attention was divided as far as it could be while retaining competence. If he let something else distract him, it could spell disaster. And in a situation like this, it was very difficult not to be distracted. A new sky had lowered over the district, a barrier of white feathers that covered this entire abandoned section of the city, sealing it off. Innumerable red eyes stared inwards from the surface of the dome, flicking around independently, no doubt performing reconnaissance for their master. If Musashi wasn't mistaken, that massive being wreaking havoc off in the distance was part of the hive of Malkuth too. Just like this thing. Praetorian 5 giggled loudly to itself as it floated high above the battlefield. "This is so fun!" It laughed in a voice that matched its childlike stature. Hey, are you scared? Are you tired? Are you dying? Come on, tell me, I really want to know! Hey, tell me! Just tell me, okay? I want to know! Hey, listen! Musashi's blood boiled. Was that grating voice part of the enemy's strategy as well? If so, it may very well have been working. Rufus fired off another beam of incandescent flame, but with the distance between them, it was child's play for Praetorian 5 to swoop around it once more. Giggling again, it wagged an admonishing finger at the nebula below. It said mockingly, deploying another wave of swords. You already tried that, remember? Already tried it! Do you have sand for a brain? If it didn't work the first time, or the second time, or the third time, it's not gonna... A voice echoed across the rooftop, cutting off the Praetorian's mania. Unchained! Praetorian 5 stopped talking. It went silent. Actually, no, that wasn't true. It did let out a choking noise as its limbs twitched, as if it were being held tight in a massive and invisible fist. Because that was exactly what was happening. Musashi turned his head to look at the opposite side of the roof, and there, as he'd half expected, half dreaded, was the implacable form of the man called Meriloko. He strode calmly across the roof, arms limp at his sides, his dispassionate gaze fixed upwards on the immobilized Praetorian. Is he here to kill me, too? Musashi wondered. No, he has a bounty on him, same as me. In that case, why? Untoward, Meriloko said, ignoring the confused looks from those around him. Gravity had a new master here. The roof began to shudder and tear beneath his feet, strips of concrete peeling away to form the steps of a floating staircase, so that Meriloko could ascend towards his prey. As the burly man grew closer and closer, Praetorian 5 twitched, attempting to escape. A huge group of thralls moaned as their bodies were crushed and fused into one jagged greatsword, the weapon fired at Meriloko with the speed of a bullet. The man from the past just caught it in his teeth. How many people have caught blades in their teeth in this series? It's like 3 now, right?
Because it goes hard. If you could do it, wouldn't you do it?
It takes the teeth away from any sword. How can a sword be scary? I'll just bite it.
My teeth were simply better swords.
Shing! The man from the past just caught it in his teeth. Crunch! Swords are washed. Slowly, as those who had just been fighting now watched dumbfounded, Meriloko shattered the weapon in his mouth and swallowed the shards. As if the deadly implement was just a snack, he consumed it down to the hilt, which he tossed over his shoulder. For the first time since he'd arrived, the man blinked. Yummy, he said humorlessly. Praetorian... Sniff! My favorite. Praetorian 5 was dead a second later. A massive punch infused with aether and enhanced by Unchain utterly destroyed the top half of its body. Red aether leaking from its form, the tiny corpse dropped to the ground far below. Did she lose the abilities?
With that one, she probably actually lost the abilities because that was very fast.
Yo! Hive of Malkuth Chad seething.
I will never financially recover from this.
Mariloko followed a second later, the roof shaking as he landed right before Musashi. Their eyes met. "Why?" Musashi breathed. "You said a lot of bullshit back there," Mariloko said simply. "You can't die yet." Musashi blinked. Was that meant to explain anything? As Rufus ran over to provide uncertain aid, stopped by the subtlest shake of Musashi's head, Mariloko's dull eyes drifted over Musashi's shoulder to lock onto the horizon. "We need to deal with that," Mariloko nodded. "Can you fight?" Musashi followed Mariloko's gaze to the shining titan raining destruction down on the city. He was right. Without a doubt, that creature was the one who had erected the bright barrier around the district, trapping them all inside. Even if they could safely take off, right now they had no way of getting the ship out of here. That thing had to go, then. Musashi took a deep breath and ignited another radiant from his hand. "Yes," he said, pushing for his words to be true. "I can fight." The new guardian entity, Q-So, appeared in a rage of discordantly flashing aether. It had been created by recording and altering the rats that had scurried through this building, and it had taken form from them as well. They were bound together tightly with a lattice of strings like a full-body fishnet, their squirming bodies forming a vaguely humanoid shape. Half a dozen tails writhed through the air as a gruesome face, while jaws and teeth were stretched out to form rudimentary fingers. Slowly, as if realizing for the first time that it was alive, the monster spread its arms wide and arched its back to such a degree that its head faced the ceiling, its body forming a grotesque right angle. "Interesting, very interesting," Black Dog chuckled, looking over its shoulder at the floating monstrosity. "Do you like what I did with the face? Gnarly, huh?" Morgan said nothing. He just drew his fog sword back, preparing himself, eyes resolute. He'd only faced guardian entities personally once, when he was keeping the Crimson Carnival away from Musashi's match, but he knew they could display absurd abilities. They weren't to be... Huh?
It's an interruption.
Oh, I got confused because the lines, carried over. They're not to be taken lightly, right? The Black Dog finished. Morgan's eyes widened in alarm. "I got you, didn't I?" Black Dog cackled, tapping a pointed finger against its temple. "That's exactly what Wu Ming would expect you to think. You're so predictable, you know that?" It sighed, running a hand over its face. "Anyway, enough games. Time to finish this. Guardian entity! A voice interrupted. "Shamichoro." The Black Dog turned its head, and in the next moment that head was shredded apart. Metal strings lashed out of the darkness again and again, so fast that the dog had no time to regenerate before the next attack came. Within a couple of seconds, the Black Dog was just a pile of diced shadows on the ground, its newborn guardian entity floating impotently above it. The last man Morgan Noct had expected to see marched out of the darkness, shamisen in hand. Nail Manwin. Their eyes met. "Huh?" Morgan said. "You're Musashi's sidekick, right?" Nail grunted, strings still attacking the pile of darkness on the ground. "I guess you're here, too." "What are you doing here?" Morgan wanted to say that, but no, there were bigger concerns. His gaze flicked back to the decimated Black Dog. "Be careful," he said. "Normal attacks won't kill it, I know," Nail grunted. "But if I keep going like this, I can stop it from moving, right? I was watching. I know you've got a way to damage it. Finish it off while I keep it busy." Just like that? The last time they'd met, for lack of a better word, they'd been bitter enemies in battle. Now Mandarin just expected them to join forces without a second thought? Well, Morgan thought, actually, I'm kind of into that. Oh my god, he's... Wu Ming, no! The transformation's almost complete! As Shamichoro continued to disassemble the regenerating carcass of the Black Dog, Q-So finally leapt into action. The Ratman kicked off of empty air, squealing and screeching as it moved to strike Nail with its gnarled fists. "Shamichoro!" Mandarin barked. "Bachigawa!" Nearly instantly, the metal strings of his shamisen wrapped around Mandarin's body as armor, and he deflected Q-So's punch with a kick of his own. Sparks flew in every direction as tooth met metal. That didn't slow the guardian entity down, though. Before those sparks could even hit the ground, it was already launching another attack, and Mandarin was immediately moving to block it. "Move it!" Mandarin barked, his voice echoing from within his armor. "You've got seconds!" Right. Now that Mandarin was occupied with Q-So, there was nothing stopping the Black Dog from regenerating. It was do or die time. Morgan charged towards the growing pile of darkness, the shape of his fog sword shifting in his hands. F.A.! New tendrils of fog emerged from his shoulder blade, surging towards the blade of his now massive weapon. I.A.! As the twin fog flowed inside the hollow blade, Morgan altered it, prepared it like a chef prepares a dish. C.A.! And as he leapt over the last obstacle and plunged his blade into the black mass, I.A.! He used the final ability, the one that would finish this. L.A.! And nothing happened. Morgan blinked. Huh? The grin of the black dog reformed. Lengthwise guillotine. Instantly, Morgan was launched backwards. A cruel gash opened up all the way down his torso. Blood sprayed from his wound in his mouth twice, once as he was struck, then again as he struck the wall, leaving a sizable dent. Lights danced in his vision, nausea pooled at his throat. What had happened? What was happening? What was going to happen? Morgan's vision cleared, just for a moment, just in time to see Black Dog's fangs lunging for his throat, and all those questions were answered at once. Oh, I'm dead. I'm dying. I'm going to die. Hachiman! Nail roared. Death was robbed by mere inches as a swing of the Guardian Entity's spear intercepted the beast, sending it flying back as it dodged the follow-up. As Nail and his Hachiman stood defensively in front of the downed Morgan, the black dog landed beside its own Guardian Entity, which returned to a floating position behind it. You're pretty fast, Black Dog smirked, but you wasted your one chance. Both of you are dead now. You say that, Mandarin replied, his own Guardian Entity flipping its weapons in its hands, but you're keeping your distance, aren't you? After all, you know what Hachiman can do. Black Dog chuckled. You think that scarecrow frightens me, little man? You've already used its ability on me once, and looky, I'm fine now. Why would I even be worried? Hachiman's ability, the one that had nearly spelt the end of Musashi. Morgan remembered it well. At Mandarin's command, that Guardian Entity could launch an unblockable, undodgeable attack. As far as Morgan knew, there was absolutely no way for the target to avoid being hit by that attack. The best anyone could hope for was to mitigate the damage. Of course, Black Dog wasn't an ordinary target. The level of damage that attack could do against it might as well be nothing, considering it could just pull itself back together right after. But Nail Mandarin knew that too. That was why, visible only through the slightest seam in his armor, a smirk spread across his lips to match that of his adversary. True, Nail said. Hachiman can't do much against that half-assed body of yours. Of course. His red gaze flicked upwards. The same can't be said of your... of your lackey there. The same can't be said of your lackey there. Hachiman adjusted its aim just slightly and locked right on to Black Dog's own Guardian Entity, to the Kyuso that floated behind the beast. Black Dog's eyes widened, a snarl poured from its throat. Wait! It barked. Nail Mandarin did not wait. Guardian Entity! He roared. Hachiman! The warrior of straw and flame thrust its spear forward into eager space, the blade crackling with aether and potential, and the room was plunged into silence. For a moment nobody spoke, for a moment nobody moved. And then, Nail Mandarin collapsed to the floor. A massive hole opened right up in his gut. Wait! Black Dog repeated, but now giggling, mocking as it looked down at the fallen warrior. Wait! Don't do it, please! I beg of you! Not Hachiman! Still laughing, it sauntered over, pressing its foot against the back of Mandarin's head and forcing his face into the dirt. He groaned softly at the edge of consciousness. His fingers twitched as his armor unpeeled and fell limp to the ground beside him. Bastard, he hissed, his eyes glassy and fixed on empty space. As Nail drifted into a lethal sleep, the Black Dog's joyous gaze flicked back up to Morgan, still embedded in the wall. Now, it growled, your turn. Sorry, I just need a quick second. I'm healing. Praetorian One sang, and the world shattered. Blaise Pesci, a building was demolished in a screeching chorus. Capture Ball, a gang of Crimson Carnival leftovers were trapped and left to suffocate in the sky. Field of Naught, the attacks and projectiles that came close crumbled into salt. Weak, far too weak. Ear of Stars. The corpses formed through righteous slaughter streamed up into Praetorian One's body, fueling its wavering life force. Morning Star. Feathers collected before the Praetorian's index finger until they formed a perfect white sphere, and when that was fired at a building, all that remained was a crater of glass. It is not enough! Dead Eyes, along with revealing the names of those Praetorian One looked at, also maintained a constant record of those it had killed. Over the last few minutes, names of the deceased had flowed into Praetorian One's mind, a chorus to the slaughter. Samuel Sensman's name was yet to appear. It watched with the eyes from its wings, twisting them this way and that to get a better angle. It watched with the eyes from the firmament above, crimson gaze unblinking, and yet it did not see him. That man was nowhere to be found. Praetorian One screamed, Appointment! Do you think you can hide from me, vile sinner? Utter heathen! Shrink not from my gaze! Red eyes twitched and flicked around independently all over one's body, mirroring its fury, and then just as quickly they all returned to serenity. Its mood was so changeable right now. How curious. Was this the psychology of a blessed one? Oh. You're attacking me? I haven't even done anything, and you're attacking me? What does he mean he hasn't done anything?
He's high. He's so wasted.
I have a feeling you just really wanted to be goofy. It's fun, though. I like it.
He is goofy, but he is blowing up the city.
That is true. Praetorian 1 raised a hand and casually blocked the blast of light surging towards it. The attack had been quite impressive. In its new form, Praetorian 1 was the size of a building, and yet the blast would have sufficed to blast it apart had it struck. Which brave warrior was this? The double blaster. I assume tear it apart, break it apart, break the skin had it struck. It twisted its head wings in the direction of the attack, pupils shrinking as they zoomed in on the source. Ah! There you are! A toy Muzazi! The loser of the Dawn contest stood atop the roof of the Alan Grace Memorial Shopping Center, blade of light raised as he slowly collected the force required for another attack. It was too late, though. That first chance had been his last chance. What with the radiance of the canopy, Praetorian 1 hadn't noticed the full moon charging his radiant almighty, but now the sinner had no such leeway. One pointed a lazy finger in the direction of its target, a gaggle of feathers gathering into a single point before it. Choke on God's light and die! Praetorian 1 tapped the point, and a blast of heaven...
When Jesus said that.
Yeah? And a blast of heaven's fire... Oh, I love heaven's fire over hellfire. And a blast of heaven's fire surged forward, crossing the distance between 1 and Muzazi in barely a second. The sinner had been ready for it, though. Just as fast, he dodged to the side, and someone else leapt in to receive the blow. A red-haired man holding a massive shield, a shield that the blast of light slammed into, scattering in every direction as it pushed against him. Oh! Even if that shield was sturdy enough to block Praetorian 1's attack, which it wasn't, its wielder surely wouldn't be. He'd be sent flying, and that shield, that puny, impotent shield, would slip from his grasp. Any defenses, if any even existed, would be failed by those operating them any second now. He wasn't going flying. Instead, Von Frostburn stood firm, deflecting the light as it poured forth, even as cracks formed in the rooftop around him. What was this? How was he withstanding the attack? Praetorian 1 narrowed its eyes and observed further, observed closer. Purple aether shimmered all around the man, holding him in place, holding him steady, a spell of enhanced gravity. Mereloco. Providence was truly on the side of Praetorian 1 tonight. Every single person that wanted dead were presenting themselves with such convenience. That... Morgan choked blood, limbs splayed out around him, half buried in the wall. That ability... You figured Cuso out, haven't you? Black Dog grinned mirthfully as it advanced, Cuso floating over its shoulder. There's a good boy. Wuming was right about you. You do catch on quick. Morgan narrowed his eyes, more to keep his vision clear than anything else. If Black Dog had managed to avoid that unavoidable attack, then there was only one explanation. Hachiman struck its target without exception. Morgan had no doubts about that. In that case... Your guardian entity... Morgan gasped out the unfamiliar parlance. It lets you change the target of other abilities. If I had to guess, it redirects any enemy ability within range. Makes them target the user instead. That explained what had happened to Morgan, too, why Light hadn't worked before. L worked by targeting one of Morgan's aether constructs and altering it into an explosive flame. If the target for that ability was redirected to Morgan himself, it obviously wouldn't work. 10 out of 10! Nail Manrin's attack is indeed undodgeable and unblockable. I mean, weren't you watching? He wasn't able to dodge or block it at all! Black Dog clutched its stomach as it laughed mirthfully, and then suddenly stopped, its eyes dead. And now... Like I said, your turn. Fuck you. The Black Dog paid no mind to the insult. Instead, it simply threw its arms out, unleashing a wave of discordant aether, flickering between various ghastly tones that crawled across the room. Morgan's heart skipped a beat in his chest. Morgan's sweat turned ice cold. One by one, all around Morgan, white towers of what looked like bone rose out of the floor. He trembled as he looked at them. He knew these... He forced out, bastard, just... They're called restrainer towers, Black Dog explained needlessly. I'm told this gets messy if I don't use them. Best to follow the manual in such cases, don't you think? Morgan's eyes widened, and space warped as if to mock his horror. String theory. Black hole. Oh my. Goodbye guests indeed. What's gonna happen to them?
I don't know. Well, Morgan is galactic level, so I don't know how much damage a black hole can do.
Oh my goodness gracious. Are you ready for questions?
I am.
Yay! He loves questions. Let me open the questions list. Weiser asks, how good is the insurance policy on Appointment's armored chassis? Is battle damage from fighting the Hive of Malkuth covered in general, or only if they start the fight?
Probably only if they start the fight, which they did, to be fair.
Phew.
Yeah.
I said, phew.
Yeah, so he's getting a good return.
Rurum asks, who or what was the Black Tarask?
The Black Tarask? They were a mercenary sort of warlord who tried to rise up following the Elysian Fields incident. They thought, oh, this is a good opportunity. I will simply make my big army and become supreme before anyone else can do the Dawn contest yet. But they sort of floundered, and they got a bunch of people together, but it never really went anywhere. And then someone hired Nail to kill them, and he did.
Nice.
And then the organization sort of collapsed.
MT asks a very interesting one I never thought of. MT asks, does Achilles Esmeralda's JJE, Judge, Jury, Executioner, and the one Dragon fought against in the outer melee have any connection other than the name?
The name is just a similarity in name. Rather than like the ghost aesthetic and the bringing back the dead thing, his is literally like Achilles is literally based more on sort of like judgment and sentencing. It's more of a court sort of judge, jury, executioner rather than like a spectral one. If that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah. Rurum asks, Yusuf Singer made it all the way to the top 8. What was his deal?
He was a singer. Hence his name. He could sing various songs that had various effects. But
his name was Singer, and he was a singer?
Yeah, because he used to sing to his wife before she died. Feel bad now?
I hope you're joking.
No, I am joking.
Holy shit. Aether is washed?
No, he was like a fashion guy. He like made outfits for himself that possessed various abilities, sort of like the sets. So he was like Infinite Nicky. Nice.
Lan asks, does XL Surge / Badge of Honor use Cadman's interpretation of an ability, or does it literally retrieve the exact ability?
It is the exact ability, but then if you use XL Surge, that is the result differs based on like what can be improved on the ability. Oh. Like if it's like perfectly optimized, it's just going to be a power boost. But if it's like
he mentioned that with low Rose abilities, like it's already pretty optimal. It's just a little
so it just
range
makes
boost.
it so you can do more of it.
Yeah. Lan asks, tell us a bit about Henry's origin story, please.
Henry the Glutton?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the universe, he just sort of lurked around. He was never, like, the first big thing he did was kill the Supreme, so he was just sort of, like, lurking in backwaters and gathering up, like, Aether Awakenings for his ability and waiting to do what was basically an assassination. It was not, like, a one-on-one fight that he won.
Oh, I got you.
So, his backstory, as far as anyone in the galaxy is concerned, is one day he popped up and killed the Supreme and became Supreme.
I got you.
Before that, he was like a small-time warlord of sorts.
Yeah.
So he went from small-time all the way to the biggest guy. Because basically, he himself maybe is not the strongest guy when he's Supreme, but because of his ability, he has a ghost of the last strongest guy that he can use as he wants.
He's devilishly evil. Alright.
So I don't want to spoil Cradle, but you know in Cradle that one guy who has the thing?
What do you mean?
There's that character who is really strong, and they come back as a ghost, and the guy who killed them uses them, if you recall.
Yes!
Yes, it's like that.
Yeah.
Like, if you could get Henry on his own without any Aether Awakenings, he's like mid-tier, but...
Henry, like user of the Labyrinth?
Yeah, but he is basically like a Pokemon trainer, like I've said before, in terms of how he fights. So you're not fighting Henry, you're fighting his Pokemon.
Oh, he's like, I know who you're talking about now, the lion guy.
Yes.
When he uses the fucking... Oh, that guy was a piece.
But yeah, literally, like what I mean is like if you're fighting Henry the Glutton, you're not fighting Henry the Glutton. You're fighting like the Pokemon he throws at you of people he's eaten.
That's a very funny.
And they all have their own powers and stuff. So that's
Nice.
it's similar sort of. It's similar to Cadmon in the way that he'll use lots of different things, but he can like throw them out and use them simultaneously and also go after you himself.
Nice.
So it's probably actually harder to fight Henry than it was Cadman, because Cadman could do like two at once.
Yeah, that's evil. I'll keep that in mind when I kill fight Henry. Thanks for the advice.
And because he did have the Aether Awakening of Gale, he also had Gale's ability through that. So
Which, like, shared, yeah.
But what he could do with that is he could give those, like, buffs to himself.
Yeah. Oh,
And there's, like, 16, and he could just stack 16 of them on him alone.
How did he get defeated?
He died of a heart attack.
That's it?
Yeah.
He couldn't beat his own card. Fucking Goku-ass backstory.
Because he was a glutton.
That's really funny.
He ate himself to death.
That rules. Alright, well, I think we'll leave it off there, but thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.